I am so glad to be back in the house with you on today for another episode, another show entitled Book It. That's right. It's me, Java. I'm so glad to see you here on this evening. We are in for an awesome and grand time. On last week, we had a phenomenal author, one of our very own here, Demia Daggett. She wrote this awesome book called The Chronicles of Noah, My Glorious Skin. And wow, I mean, what an excellent book that has been well put together. The graphic, the story, right? The packaging, everything was just par excellent. And we just want to thank God for, Demia Doggett for the awesome job that she has done, with this book, the Chronicles of Noah, My Glorious Skin. It was fantastic. So if you missed it, I want you to go right now. Right now, you can go to her website, right? Her website, and you can grab your copy of the book. SECSDA back slash book it, secsda.org /book it, and that will get you a copy of your book. You can also visit her website, and you can also get it there. This week we have another phenomenal guest here. You have seen the flyers, you have seen the graphics. It is one of our very own here in the state of Florida, Dr. Andy Lampkin. This week, right? This week, we have an amazing book that just got published. This book has just been published at the end of last year. African American Seventh-day Adventist Healers in a Multicultural Nation. This book really just chronicles, right, the history of Seventh-day Adventists and what they have meant, in the context of Adventism, but also in the larger context, of the African American tradition, particularly, i.e., the Black church. So I want to bring, our special guest in here on our show with us. Hello, Dr. Lampkin, how are you doing?
Elder Madison, I'm so glad to be with you today. I am so thoroughly excited to be on your show today. I'm doing well, having a good day. I'm so delighted you thought enough of this little book to have me on your show, and I've been looking forward to get on the show. So I am excited about the conversation we are about to have, and this idea, book it.
Mhm.
My gosh, a virtual forum for discussion. I know I added a few words in there, but reminding us of the importance of books. That's on point, brother. That is on point. Reminding us of the importance of books, man. I love them. I love them. I'm loving
Listen, I've got the very book in my hand
them.
right here, and I'm just so excited to have it in my hand. And let me just say this before I ask you the impetus, what drove you to help spearhead this book. What I gathered, according to your comment about how important books are, this is one of the first, is it, scholarly works, perhaps, on chronicling the history of African American Seventh Day Adventists. I mean, you tell me what are we looking at here?
I appreciate that. I'm gonna give a little history, a little background to the text. Um, Dr. Ramona Hyman, I'm sure you remember Dr. Ramona Hyman from Oakwood University. She teaches there in the English department. In fact, chaired the department for a while. Back in 2013, we were both at Loma Linda University there in the School of Religion. And Dr. Hyman hosted a conference titled African American Healers Conference. And one of the things, and I was kind of behind the scenes in conversation with her, but one of the things we decided to do was have a panel discussion, really getting at the contributions of African American Seventh Day Adventists, both to the church and to society at large. And so I actually chaired a conference, so to speak. I facilitated a discussion of many of the authors that are actually in this book. And the discussion went very, very well. It was extremely well received. And then we said, you know what? Others need to get a hold of this information. Others need to know and understand this history that this history and the experience of African American Seventh Day Adventists is healing. We need to know this history because it's not well known. It's not very well known in the church, and so yeah, we decided to pull all those authors together, and we published this little text here. Of course, they're good histories of the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and there have been many other authors over the years. I think you and I had a private conversation about some of the amazing work that E. Cleveland did back in the
Absolutely.
day in publishing. So there are Adventist histories out there. This just kind of adds to it, but the depth of scholarship in this book may be one of a unique uh, feature of the work. Although there is Dr. Rock's book that's published a couple years ago, Protesting in Progress. It's a pretty scholarly text as well.
Wow, wow. So listen, here it is. We have this book, and I just wanna read. John Pauline is one of the individuals who have been inspirational in my understanding of some theological um, concepts concerning Revelations, and he had this is what he had to say. About the book. He says America was a child of European um, colonial colonial project, the first truly worldwide attempt to dominate others based on a sense of social and moral superiority. Europeans considered themselves superior because of their science, education, technology, and yes, religion. It says that the white man's burden was to lift up those who were inferior, those who had been left behind in all those Western advances in science and religion. But feeling and acting superior, Europeans were unfaithful to the very gospel that had brought them so many blessings and so much prosperity. It is hard for me to grasp today that slavery and the lynching tree so often had the blessing of Protestant pulpits. Wow. I mean, that's shocking, that here it is, a Seventh Adventist European from his confession, theologian, very prominent theologian in Adventism, speaks about the appalling shock that slavery was promoted in Protestant pulpits. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Wow, I really appreciate John Pauline. I will say he's a good friend of mine, and he also served as my dean while at Loma Linda. His reflections here are on point. I mean, they're really on point. Slavery, colonial expansion, they're really incompatible with the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's inconsistent with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So he says things like it's shocking. And then he talked about the lynching tree, to use one of James Cone's expressions. It is shocking, and not just shocking, but it's disturbing. Um, so one of the things I think the book is actually getting at, he's given us some insights into really the background. That's the background of what's happening. Um, not just slavery, because the text doesn't necessarily deal with slavery. It deals with the time after slavery, but Jim Crow, segregation, and wholesale oppression is on the table. And those are the kind of things he's actually capturing uh, there, that it should be shocking and disturbing to the conscious, and it is. And so I think one of the challenges that we have as Christians and as Protestant Christians is to be in America, in the North American context, is to be honest about that history, Java, to be
Yeah,
very honest about that history and acknowledge our part, um, repent, and then work hard to try to make better some of the ongoing suffering and oppression that's a consequence of the things that Dr. Pauline is actually talking about. This is a bit of of an aside. I mean, people, we often forget, and just being real for a second, we often forget that the civil rights movement was in the 60s. We've
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
enjoyed some rights for the past 50 years. In many ways, I say that my generation, and again, my fifth decade, we were the first to see non-segregated schools. I mean, just
Mm,
wrap your head around, just wrap your head
yeah.
around that. So you can't take that for granted, and that includes even some of our schools and Christian schools, and I dare say even Adventist schools. So we have to acknowledge that history and be real about that history. Then we got to work to um, repair the breach. I hope that captures it. Repair
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
breach.
Yeah.
You can't have several hundred years of slavery and another 150 years or so of oppression. Then just say everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about what that does to
Mm,
think about that, what that does to society. Clearly, what it does to the oppressed people, and what it even does to the oppressor. And I think that's what John is really capturing, that it creates in the oppressor a false sense of self, to
yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
for a Christian to believe that he or she is superior to another human being is anathema. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
incompatible with,
With the
you get me
gospel. With
excited.
the gospel.
It's
Yeah.
incompatible with with the gospel, to be sure. And what about Genesis 1 and 2? God created all uh humankind. So yeah, I hope that's getting at it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, listen. This is how he followed up his statement. This is what he said. He said, "It's hard for me to grasp today that slavery uh, and the lynching tree had been a part of Protestant pulpits in the South." He says, but this is what he says. He says, "In spite, that's what I love, of marginalization, discrimination, disrespect directed towards them, meaning African Americans, largely based on the color of their skin, the Black Seventh Day Adventists I have chosen not to return evil for evil, but to respond to evil with good. They have chosen to live out the teachings and example of Jesus, to be Seventh-day Adventists," he continues, "and not know the Black Adventist story is incomplete." I mean, here he's speaking from a European perspective, and he
Yes.
is saying, if you just know the gospel in the Adventist history and you don't really know some Black brothers and sisters, you don't know that struggle, you really don't know the complete story and the beauty, what he's trying to say, of Adventism. Because here it is, a religion, a faith tradition that is largely affected by the American, milieu society.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yet you have this gem where even Dr. Rock said Black Adventists, like the C.D. Brooks and the Bradfords and the Clevelands, did not deflect, did not try to go and start their own. But within the constructs of Adventism, we've existed, and then they've got the gall to try to say that we need to join them back. I digress. Talk to
No, I appreciate that. It's so much in Dr. Pauline's a statement. Again, the shock of, again, Protestant Christians, but really Christians more generally, perpetuating the evil institution of slavery and the oppression that followed. That's shocking in and of itself. And then he appears shocked and surprised that African American, and then particularly African American Seventh Day Adventists, have been so kind and so forgiving
Mm,
and so
wow.
enduring. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing, and I think he captured it in his statement. And I think what you have there is African Americans taking their faith seriously.
Mm, mm,
They're taking the faith of the Christian faith very seriously. They're taking the teachings of the Adventist Church very, very seriously. Seventh Day Adventist, and I say this somewhere in the book, and these African American Seventh Day Adventist healers, they're prisoners of hope.
mm,
We're
mm.
prisoners of hope.
Yeah.
We know that there's a God out there who's created everything that exists in the world, and we know there's a God out there that one day we all gonna have to answer to. You mess around and wake me up a little bit here, man, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, listen. Hey, look, you already done struck fire, man. You done struck fire already. Listen,
yes,
listen, listen.
yes, yes.
Look,
And taking
I
that
got
serious though. One more quick thing. And
yeah.
taking that serious, doc, and taking that serious. I think that African Americans more generally, but African American Seventh-day Adventists more particularly, we have tried to be faithful to our calling, and and sometimes we criticize for this. We don't still try to treat everybody right. It's
Yeah.
with Martin King and the civil rights movement, all that love that they were marching with.
Yeah.
So when we face hate, because of our faith commitments, we still love and work to treat people right. I think that's a beautiful legacy that we have, that our foreparents have left us, and I think, Java, that's something we need to leave our children. Go ahead, brother. You got more questions for me?
Absolutely. Well, I think we may have struck a vein here.
Yeah, yeah,
I think we may have struck a vein. I've gone to get my blood drawn before and they couldn't find the vein, but I don't think that's the case here tonight.
yeah. Come on, preacher. I
you
like
know,
it. I like
you know, there's a
it.
lot to draw from here. You know what I mean? I, I mean, so the beauty of living out the gospel in the face of systems and structures within your faith tradition that constrict and restrict, but yet to still live out the life of Jesus. I think it's something that as Black Seventh Adventists we may want to embrace that. That seems to be a badge of honor to some degree because it's a form and a type of suffering in which it's one thing for us to know, for God to know us, but I always tell this to my students. It's a whole nother thing for you to know him, for you to be in touch with how he feels.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
God knows how you feel. Yeah, but man, do you know how he feels? And staying within this system, regardless of the many calls for us to join back with the state conferences, we still hold our heads up high and looking for what Calvin Rock says, something better. This
it.
hope, this prison of hope, this
We're
prison of hope.
prisoners of hope. We're
Yeah.
prisoners of
So
hope,
so
man.
so talk to us about something better here and now, because he was trying to bridge the gap, right? Drawn from Hebrews, man, where the pillars of the heroes of faith was looking for something better, and never quite actualized what they were looking
Yeah, yeah,
for.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
are we tasting and seeing what that the Lord is good here in the land of the living? Talk to us.
yeah. I appreciate that. Uh, 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 that sermon was recorded, so you can, and your listeners, you can find the recording of Elder Rock. It was a profound sermon. It was a straight gospel message, and so you need to get a hold to it, and your hearers need to hear it. And
I I listened to all of it last night.
You listen to all of it, good, good, and you got his language, that
Yeah, yeah,
search, or that quest for something better, or healed by something better. Now, it's something to that, and I like in his movements, and this is recorded in the text in his essay. He
hmm
talks about even within the African American experience. He didn't use this language, but there's almost this notion of progress. We were once slave, then we were free from slavery, so things got a little better. Then he talked about how we found our faith, our faith in Christian. Things got a little better, and then he
yeah,
he talked about how the spirituals emerged. The powerful musical genre, the spirituals, how they emerged. He said that's something still a little better. And
yeah. It's
so
better. Yeah, yeah,
am I right about it? So
yeah,
then
yeah,
you can keep going, and look at the Adventist theological tradition, and things keep moving, and we don't like to use the language of progress, but things keep moving and things get a little better. And I think if the Lord delays His return, things are still going to get better. And I think that's what Dr. Rock is actually getting at in his message. Things will get a little better here and there. Then one day, again, prisoners of hope, we can look forward to the day. Right now, you know where I'm going with.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
ultimately, see, he's a
Ultimately,
preacher of the gospel of Jesus. Ultimately, things will be all right. As
yeah.
Kendrick Lamar, that urban poet from Compton,
Uh-huh.
California, we
Yes,
gonna be
yes.
all right.
We're gonna be
we
all
gonna
right.
be all right.
Well, listen. On that note, man, you get me excited, man, because there's another urban poet, man. I want you to take contention with, man. Kanye West. You know, uh, but before we get to Kanye, man, let me set the atmosphere for everybody who is just joining us, man. Here, listen, we are here with Dr. Andy Lampkin. He has written a book called The African American Seventh-day Adventist Healers in a Multicultural Nation. And essentially, he has given us, a powerful scholarly essay, several authors, doctors, professors, etc., who have put this book together, giving us a historical account of how, as Black Seventh-day Adventists, how we have brought hope and healing to our community and our culture, right? And Ramona Hyman, Dr. Ramona Hyman, she said of Delbert Baker, she said, this is what she said in the book. She says the SDA Church, Delbert said, was to model Christ's gospel of love and inclusion in practice. It was in this context, Ellen White repeatedly told the church leaders that they were not fulfilling their mission if they neglected their disadvantaged Black brothers and sisters in their own country. Although psychologically, socially, spiritually wounded, watch this now. The wounding of the African
Yeah.
American because of being enslaved and dehumanized, the African American, she argues, has successfully navigated these American shores and is the American institutional example of healing if one follows the definition of health as defined by the World Health Organization. So here, Dr. Hyman is basically saying here is a city that is shining, that's set on the hill. You know, our community, the Black church, which Seventh-day Adventist Blacks are a part of, and I'm about to let you run and tell us how we are a part of the larger Black church culture, because there's been an effort to separate us. But your book, your essay is arguing Blacks in America brought up and raised by the Black church. So this healing, this shining example through the Black church. Tell us about the Black church, Dr. Lampkin.
Uh, 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 this could take the rest of our interview. I get
Yeah,
excited
the rest
about
the rest of the time is yours.
about the Black church, to be sure. Exciting times. The Black church. I wanted to make a couple comments about you.
Sure, go ahead.
You began with, sorry to go back a little bit. You
Oh, go
began
ahead.
with Dr. Hyman's comment. That's my co-editor, Dr. Hyman, and her comments are brilliant. I'm glad you grabbed them to reflect on them, because she's saying in many ways, after African Americans have been oppressed in this country, slaves, and then suffering through Jim Crow. And if you read her essay, you read her introduction, her critical introduction very carefully. She even takes us back to Africa in the Middle Passage and say, "Hey, it's just been oppression, 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 oppression. It's been hard out there." You know,
Yeah.
that's the basic way to say it. They say, "Hey, this population of people, African Americans, have experienced a lot of hurt, but yet they're still healers. They're
They
wounded
still,
healers."
yes.
Right. And that has to grab you, and that's that you have to stop and really reflect on that. Yeah, we're not happy about our experience, but what it means in many ways to be African American is to make lemonade out of lemons.
Mm. Come on now.
You know, and
Come on
I
now.
think that's what she's
Yeah. Yeah.
capturing a little bit there. And here it is. And for me, what I argue in my essay, I actually wrote an essay entitled, as you know, Repairers of the Breach. I'm actually arguing that again, African Americans and the Black church tradition. So, African American Seventh Day Adventists, nobody would dispute or deny that they are, Black and a part of the Black community. To be sure, it would be unreasonable to suggest otherwise. But there are these features of the Black church, and we have in mind the historic Black church, the church that really began during, believe it or not, during slavery. Um, African Americans, the captives, they would either worship in the cabins, or they would go out into the fields away from the supervision of the slavers, and they would worship. They would worship, and they would experience. And then African American religion, and I'm being brief. African American religion, in many ways, is a syncretism or a mixture of African religion,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then not just Protestant, but American, let me just say this way, American Christianity. These things are being brought together. And if you ever been to a Black church,
Well,
if you
well,
ever been to the Black church and you
a
heard a preacher.
self-aware Black church.
Well, there it is. There it is. The preacher, he or she will read from the gospel, or read from the Bible, and sit it down and preach.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That's a tradition that goes way back. Whether you're Adventist, whether you're Methodist, whether you're Baptist, whether you're Pentecostal, you see these certain elements. The way um, the musical genres that you find in Black churches are similar. And again, it crosses again denominational lines. So that suggests that there are some features that are consistent, and that there is this thing called a Black church. Often when they talk about the Black church, they talk about those denominations, those Black denominations that are run basically by Black people, from
Hmm. Hmm.
the president of the institution, or the bishop of the institution, the leader of the institution, all the way down to the people. That's what they have in mind. But there are other features there as well. And so that's why I include Seventh-day Adventists a part of the Black church tradition, because the way we do church and the way we worship,
Hmm.
um, and the way we are committed to social justice and the like, we're getting that from the historic Black church. I believe
So,
that we're getting that from the historic Black church tradition. Go
so
ahead,
let me
push me.
so let me ask you a question. Just real quick. We got the Black church, and then we have the Seventh Day Adventist Blacks. Are you suggesting that the Seventh Day Adventists, Black church is a part of the Black church? And if so, do you feel like there has been an undercurrent to separate us from our
Yeah.
roots?
Yeah, that is a good question. That's a great question, and I love it, and I think it's worth pursuing. And I think we should dig deeper in this. When I
Hmm.
say dig
Hmm.
deeper, is pastors like yourself, ministers like myself, and some other thinkers. We should really pursue these kinds of questions. I would argue again because of some of the way we operate as Black Seventh Day Adventists, that we should be considered a part of the larger Black
Hmm.
church.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but those who did the scholarly work and the way they define the Black church, we would be excluded. We because we're seen as Blacks within a white denomination.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's how we're
So
seen.
so you're saying that even though we have regional conferences, that's not Black enough for those on the outside of our church?
That's a part of the complexity. See,
Yeah.
that's a part of the complexity. And we may talk a little bit about Dr. Paula's article, where he actually is making the case and he's arguing for the regional conferences. Because in many ways, what the regional conferences do, they are kind of quasi Black church within Adventism, if that makes any any,
Yeah,
any
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
Because the president heretofore have always been Black or people of African descent, and so you kind of have a quasi Black church there. But here it is. So when we use language like the Black church, these are sociological. I mean, don't want to get too deep, but these are sociological kind of designations, and they put up criteria, and so hence we don't fit the criteria. But I think if we look very carefully at Black
Yeah,
Seventh
yeah,
Day Adventists
yeah,
and the
yeah,
regional conferences,
yeah.
and look at how we worship, and look at how we govern ourselves. Wow, I think it gets a
Wow,
little
wow.
difficult to just
Yeah,
completely exclude us. It's just some complexity there, if that makes any
yeah.
any
I
any
love it.
sense.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it.
I mean, what else would we be? What else would we?
What else? What else?
What else would we? What else would we be?
Well, listen, man. I'm excited that we be Black. you know, it's exciting to begin to just embrace who we are,
Yeah,
and all that we are, as Adventists, Seventh Day Adventists, but as well as distinctly Black, African American. And we don't have to hide that, and we don't have to tear down our own structure. We don't have to cut our own noses off to appease the larger body, right? I think they've done that a time or two in history. This is what you said as we begin the close, but I don't want to go without reading one of your quotes. In your essay, the repairs of the breach, the social role of the Black religion. This is what you said: the Black church emerged during the colonial period in the southern United States at the intersection of spirituality and systemic oppression to serve the existential and spiritual needs of the Black community. It began as clandestine gatherings away from the supervision of the ruling class. It emerged as a sanctuary for people without sanctuary, a place of caring and respite, an incubator for leadership development, and a location of social empowerment and spiritual renewal. How do we capture, regain this incubation, this place, this fertile ground, this fertile crescent, that leadership can be spawned again, that we can begin to heal the social and economic crises that we see where most of our churches reside. Here in Orlando, we are on the other side of the railroad track called South Apopka.
yes,
South
yes,
Apopka
yeah.
has major rich history where land was taken from the Blacks. All of Apopka used to be Black. Ocoee used to be Black. It was taken. The land was sold. People were put in jail, and while they were in jail, their land was stolen. That's history right here in Florida, you see. And here it is, Patmos is planted right at the apex of where it all went down. I mean, how can we address these issues and continue to be these healers that you all speak of, repairing the breach.
There it is, and you're onto something. We're smack dab in the middle of it all. So you so eloquently talked about those features of the Black church, again, how that church emerged from these secret gatherings to official recognition, and there always been this commitment to social justice and um, relieving suffering and making things better. That's just part of what the Black church is, and we've always done that. And I think what's unique, and you got at this earlier in your question, what's unique about many Black churches, and you're talking about the church you and I both attend, Patmos Chapel, under the leadership of Dr. James Doggett and Pastor McLean. Um, we're right there in it. We're right there in the community. And so for African American churches, historically, when we think about the historic church, it has always taken its location seriously. So if there was some need around it, it responded to those needs. And I think we're doing that at Patmos, but that's the marker of the Black church. It's not just a place we come and we uh, worship and we have a good time and, we praise the Lord and we bring our gifts and we greet our friends. But it's also a place where we work and we attempt to make things better. I think that's what the church is all about. And I don't say that's, I want to say, hey, that's a unique feature of the church.
Yeah,
That's a feature of Christianity. That's us taking
yeah,
our
yeah, yeah,
Christianity
yeah,
very, very serious. So, hey, we can't be, you remember Elder Cleveland, this is old. We can't be so heavenly bound, heavenly
yeah,
minded.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah,
no
yeah,
earthly good,
yeah,
And so
yeah,
the
yeah,
Black church has taken that very, very serious. So, the civil rights movement grew out of the Black church and its commitment to making things better, Java. So this is what we have to do. I mean, we're in, I'm being mindful of the time. We're in a danger, actually.
yeah.
I'm just keep it real for a second. We can tread on dangerous grounds when churches get so consumed with themselves and they turn
Mm,
inwardly and not
okay,
turn outwardly.
okay.
We always have to be reminded of the ministries of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus to go out and make the world a better place, because there is a tendency, and we can look around and we won't call anybody out, but you see churches turning inward. And I'm not talking about Adventist churches. I'm talking about just churches out there in the world, Christian churches in North America. But we as a Black church, and we as a people, and we as regional members of regional conferences, we need to remain true and faithful to our commitment to go out and make the world a better place. I just
Yeah.
believe that to my heart.
Well, listen, 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 man. You have made the world a better place because of the book that you have placed. And we are just so thankful for your contribution, because you are making strides in arenas that most people aren't. And we just want to say thank you to you, to Dr. Hyman, and all of the authors here in this book. That has made this book possible. So we just thank you for educating us. We thank you for just giving us a view of who we are, because sometimes you need to hear about yourself, you know. And so you guys have done that, man. This is an awesome book. We want to say thank you again. You're here live with Book It. We have with us on next week Carl McRoy. He has written a book entitled Black from the Past. That's right, Black from the Past.
I like it.
And he will be here with us to share his book with us here. And so we just ask that you join us. You can go to our site. Our site is secsda.org/book it, and you should be able to find a host of books that are available. We want to make this book available to you. We have pre-purchased roughly about 10 copies or so to share with the viewing audience. This book can be found at the African American Seventh Adventist Healers in a Multicultural Nation. It can be found on the Adventist Book Center website. All right, you can go there. Please support these Black authors: Dr.
Yes,
Mervyn
yes,
Warren, Joseph
yes.
McCoy, Dr. Calvin Rock, Dr. Leslie Pollard, Andrea Trusty King, Dr. Lampkin, yours truly, so many others: John Pauline, Carl McRoy, Murray Jackson, James Kyle, John Pauline. So this Anthony Pascal, Joseph McCoy. This book is phenomenal. Go and support your people, right? This is going to be an enriching experience book that you can add to your collection. Again, that's secsda.org/book it. We want to say thank you, Doc, for your time. We want to say thank you for blessing us, and we wish you and yours the very best in 2022. And again, thank you so much for being a part of Black History. Any parting words?
I'm absolutely honored to be here with you today. It was a lot of fun. We had a great conversation, and again, a shout out to all of the essayists, all of the authors of the book. Thank
Yes,
you for reading all of
yes,
their names, because
yes.
these are individuals who have made some significant contributions to the Seventh Day Adventist Church. You have to read what they have to
It's
say,
amazing.
and I know there's some preachers of the Gospels who are going to be watching, if they're not watching now. There are a few good sermons in here
Oh
as
yeah,
well, and there's a lot of material in here that will actually preach. This is the first of its kind, so to speak, but it won't be the last. We have so
absolutely.
much more work to do, just highlighting the contributions that we have made to the church and will continue to make to the church and the world. Thank you for
Thank
being
you so
here,
much.
and thank
Yes,
you for
sir.
this ministry. This is awesome, and I'm again absolutely delighted and honored to be here today with you.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, this is our time. On next week, join us where we will have Dr. Carl McRoy. We look for his time with us, and we hope that you book it.